Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rock and Horror Podcast Show. I'm your host, Rob Nicholson. Glad to be back. It's been a little while since I've seen y'all, and I'm just thrilled to be back in the studio in the Horror Den. And tonight, I am starting the Creating Happiness series of interviews, which I've told you about, in which we will be interviewing creators from all facets of social media, movies, television, just entertainment, things that people created to make their lives happier and to ultimately make our lives happier. Things you tune into every single day, don't even think about, and just happen to make you smile. So tonight I am very happy to bring in a TikTok star, Brave Dave, all the way from Kentucky. He is responsible for giving us, I call them slice of life videos. I happened upon him probably about, I'm going to say about a year and a half ago. And being the father of three daughters, which I know you guys know that I talk about my girls all the time, even though they're adults and they do not like me talking about them all of the time. I watched Dave and I literally laughed my ass off because I was like, oh my God, I've lived these moments.
Hi there, and welcome to part 20 of reasons that my 4-year-old and 6-year-old have been upset recently. 4 was upset that an entire chocolate bunny did not qualify for the one additional piece of candy that they were allowed to have. 4 and 6 were arguing about if this word is pronounced tenchipper or tenipper. I know they're both wrong, but I feel like I'm gravitating towards Team Tenchipper.
And I wanted to reach out to him and be like, I've lived all of these things and
Right.
It doesn't get better. It kind of gets worse. But when it gets worse, they just ask you for money a lot. I'm kidding, girls. I love you. You don't always ask me for money 4 times a week. It's not always. I tease. I love my girls. But it is so awesome to welcome him into the Horror Den. So, Dave, welcome to the show.
Rob, thank you for having me. I love the concept of new problems, different flavors. I'm fully prepared for that.
Yes.
I really
yes.
am.
They just come with bigger price tags. People say babies are expensive, and in a way they are, but I don't know. I feel like as they get older, the toys get more expensive. I mean, you know, there's cars, there's bigger toys, there's iPhones, there's, you know, computers, laptops, all sorts of stuff. And then they go to college, and that's really expensive. That's stupid crazy. So,
Right.
you know, give me formula and diapers any day of the week, because you can go to mom and dad and be like, hey, can you lend me some cash for some formula and diapers, or just go buy formula and diapers yourself? You can't be like, hey, could you just go pick me up a Nissan? It doesn't really work that well.
No.
So like I said, you came into my life on a random Sunday in me falling into this TikTok rabbit hole. And it was a joy to see somebody just, it's not even making light, it's just showing and talking about general life experiences with children. So and
Yeah.
and having girls like I do, you have 2, I have 3. Stop now.
Oh, we're done. We are done.
Having, you know, having them, you know, basically in this weird this weird Mortal Kombat thing that, you know, goes on where they're, you know, ultimately it feels to me like my girls were always trying to kill each other. Not really kill each other, but you know what I mean. They were just always going after each other. And I played one of your videos for my oldest daughter, and she's like, oh my God, I've seen him. And that is so my sisters and I growing up. It would
Right.
be literally just exactly the same. So you came into my life, like I said, on a random Sunday, and I was like almost screaming at my phone to be, you know, oh my God, I need to, you know, reach out to this guy. And I kind of never did. I hit the follow button, I hit like, or actually it's love on TikTok. And that was right at the beginning of my falling back into TikTok. I originally got TikTok because I wanted to see what my girls were doing. And that was probably, I don't know, right at the beginning of TikTok. And like most other things in this social media world that we live in, adults have ruined TikTok for the kids, because we kind of, we took it over, because I felt very weird when I first started watching TikTok and seeing what the girls were doing, because my algorithm always put like 15-year-old girls in my feed. And I was like, well, how do you combat this? I said, I'm not even going to open this app up anymore. It's just there. Right. And then over the years, and especially in 2020 when the pandemic hit, we hit this cycle where everything was social media, period. I mean, in order to communicate with anybody, that's the only thing you could do. You could do Zoom, you could do Facebook, FaceTime, all of this stuff. And TikTok really, for me, blew up. And I had been talking to a friend, and a friend said, listen, TikTok's completely different. I'm on there now, and I'm seeing like people that are older than me do things. And here we are. I went back in, and all of a sudden my feed was, and I made sure that I was liking cat videos, and I was liking Brave Dave, and I was liking, all the people you see behind me, Greg Cotta, who we have coming in next week. Gregisms is phenomenal. But that's what I did. So all of a sudden my algorithm changed, and then we hit Random Sunday, and who should pop up but Brave Dave, basically reliving my life in Kentucky. So
Yeah.
where was your start? Because I go back to the original video. One of the first ones that, well, I obviously saw you pretty well after you started, but when I went back and was going through your original videos, you had a lot of, the back and forth video where you were dressed as one person and then the other. And you still kind of do that without the costumes as much, it seems.
Yeah.
So where does your TikTok journey start? Where does your creating happiness journey start?
I was like you. I knew what TikTok was. I knew who was on it. I knew what the people on it did. And I said no to all three of those things. I have no purpose there. I have no interest. And that was a long time ago when TikTok first hit the scene. And I was younger then. It was in like my very early 20s, maybe even late teens, which was like, the peak of my cynicism.
Right.
So I was like, I will never be on TikTok. And this all aged very poorly. Because like my Facebook memories popping up all the time where I'm like, if I had the choice between like eating raw organs or being on TikTok, I'm going to eat. And they're of course like, now you're on it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I know, whatever. I didn't want to be on it. Mm-hmm. And my wife was on it frequently. And I remember I would like walk past and I would like scoff. I'd be like, I can't believe you're watching that drivel, Right, and then that would turn into me just kind of like watching and not saying anything. And eventually she's like, dude, you can just download it and then watch it yourself. You don't have to like observe me. So I did. And I was like, this is not what I thought it was. Because again, it had changed. Now we're at 3 billion monthly users.
Wow.
There's variety, and she said, why don't you just do stuff? I was like, I don't really do this. I'm not really interested. And she's like, you don't have to do anything elaborate. You don't have to have a green screen. I said, there are tons of guys on here that do like videos about their girlfriends or their kids. And if they want to be a girl, they put like a washcloth on their head, like have hair, and you can do whatever. And I said, that sounds simple enough. So it's not like I had like a brilliant idea and then jumped on and did it. I just kind of observed people for a while that I thought did things like I would do them if I did do them. I thought I have a general idea about how a skit formula goes. So I made this video about, I didn't have much material at the time. And I just remember that recently one of my girls she hadn't eaten her food right. So I wasn't really sure how to edit properly. I was all new. I felt, at the time I was like 27 or 28, but I felt 50. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to operate this apparatus. And like, I knew that I wanted music involved, but I didn't know how to add music. So I just used the voice recorder and then recorded music that was playing off of my computer. It was a hot mess, that video. And 500 people liked it. And I was like, get out of here. Okay. so it became an experiment from then, where it's like I had a full-time job that was at least 40 hours. I was usually working 60 or 70 because I was working from home. And I said, I want to see how far I can go with the least amount of effort possible.
Fair. Work
And
smarter,
as
not harder.
yeah, I was like, I said, eventually that there'll be a divergence there, and I won't grow anymore because I'm not putting in the effort. I just want to see what that was.
Sure.
And then the next video I made got like 30,000 likes. It was like me struggling to have one of my kids pick out clothing, and your whole like mentality of like the cavalier, we'll just throw a video up and see what happens. When 30,000 people like what you did, you're like, maybe I should do something a little bit more serious.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
if it has this kind of response, you know. So that's what I did. I wanted to see as many different parent content creators as I could. So I just started looking them all up and following them and interacting with them in their lives, because I was in a white collar job and I knew that networking was important. And I just wanted to be involved in what everyone was doing. I realized again that the whole TikTok was more of a vessel for what these people were doing, as opposed to the only thing they were doing. They had podcasts, they had their own little mini TV shows on YouTube, they had conventions and things that they went to, and I didn't know anybody. I had shit talk TikTok for like 5 years, and now I was trying to be involved, so I had to do a quick turnaround. And I just, I was so, I guess, overwhelmed with the concept that I didn't know how I was going to make this. And then I looked at my girls one day and they were doing something ridiculous. And I remember I said it out loud, and then now it's like a trademark in the house. I said, "You're getting TikToked.
You're getting TikToked. You're getting TikToked."
Which meant that whatever you're doing at the moment, this is like how I'm going to handle that stress and create better content.
Right.
You're getting TikTok right now. And that's like a thing in the house. Like they'll do something and I just look at my wife and I'm like, they're getting TikTok tomorrow.
And eventually they're going to start being like, hey, you know what? Let's make dad TikTok us.
Yeah. I mean, they'll catch on now. They have now, because they'll, before they didn't know what I was doing. They're just like, why are you talking to your phone? And I'm like, don't worry about it. But now they've seen me on a live before and they see me like recording. So now if I go into another room and they hear me talking, I'll be recording, and then the door just gets like, battering rammed open. Boom. Are you making a TikTok? I'm like, yes, I was. I'm not anymore.
This will go on the blooper reel.
Yeah. They always want to make TikToks all the time.
So your second video got 30,000 likes. That was pretty much your moment where you were like, wow, people are watching this. They're doing that. What was your most liked video?
There's 3. I have 3 that are over 1 million. There's this one that I made for ADHD, which was, I'm off to start a new hobby.
I'm off to do a new hobby. Thanks to hyperfixation, all I can think about is the new hobby. I've done hours of research. I know everything about the hobby. I've spent way too much money on premium products for this hobby. And here we go. This is my life, only this hobby. Wah! That's enough for that. It's off to find a new hobby. Hyperfixation is fun. My house is filled with half-done projects. Yay!
All the videos that I made that have 1 million likes or more were things that I made either out of panic or spite. Because like I don't have any content ideas. I'm just going to do this nonsense because I have to post something. And so it's like on Monday, you'll make a video where you edit it for 3 hours and you add in sound effects and visual effects and you're working on your green screen skills. And that'll get, 200 likes.
Right.
And then I can hear, my wife says, we're on our way home. We're down the street. We'll be home in like 30 seconds. I'm like, I haven't made any content today. I'm off to start a new hobby. 1 million likes. It's like it knows. It's a sick joke. It's not until you've lost all hope that you succeed on this app.
Right. And so like I'm not a TikTok creator. I have a couple ideas that I put in the works, and I get very I'm very odd about talking to a camera by myself. Like I put up my phone and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work. Now I act, so I'm up on stage, but someone else has written my shit for me. So I don't have to worry about that. Or I'm singing, and again, somebody's written my shit for me. Don't have to worry about that. I'm not sitting. If there's something about whether this or this, when I'm staring at it and there's no one at the other end, it feels weird. And I still haven't gotten past that part. But that's one of my goals. And in watching all of you guys that are here on the screen, and one person that is not, and I was supposed to have Sunday. Unfortunately, there's some stuff going on with his TikTok, and it's really bad. They gave him an account warning. Eugene Zealy, I cannot wait to have him on as well. He's another person that he makes days brighter. So Eugene, we look forward to having you on very soon. But yeah, so I look at this and I have all these ideas, and unfortunately ADD kicks in, or ADDHD. And all of a sudden I'm lost again. And I'm off to start a new hobby. My girlfriend looked at me and she's like, that's you. And it's like, okay, I want to play guitar. Well, I'm going to buy 7 guitars, and I don't know how to play guitar, and I still don't know how to play guitar. When I started the studio, I buy one camera, then I buy another camera, or I do this. I buy a microphone. I don't like this microphone. Oh, I like this microphone. Oh, this light. Then I had multiple green screens, and then I had multiple green sheets, and oh my goodness, it just, thank God I stuck with that hobby. But throughout my life, it's always been that way. So I've tried over the past few years anyway, to make sure that I stick with my hobby. And according to a lot of my friends, my hobby is that I like to hear myself talk. So here we are.
Me too. Right.
This is where we ended up. And it's not true. I don't like my voice. I don't like my singing voice, but people do. They enjoy it. So that's kind of, how that kind of thing started for me. And with the R&D project, my friend at that time, Donnie, and we kind of just sat down after this serial killer not virtual, it was in real life, camp experience where you had to outwit, outrun, and outlast a serial killer in a real camp. So it was like living in Friday the 13th. And after we were done, we sat around a table at 4 o'clock in the morning talking about horror movies, and people sat down and listened to us. And I was like, it's fucking weird. There's people actually interested in what we had to say. And that turned into a Star Wars discussion. That turned into a Star Trek discussion, Twilight Zone, all of these things. And all of a sudden it was like 9 o'clock in the morning and we had not slept. So I said to Donnie, I was like, hey, this might be a cool thing to do. And we were only going to do audio, and that's what we did. We just did an audio thing. And it lasted for a while. And unfortunately, like I told you pre-show, he had some issues that were weighing on him, and unfortunately the show didn't go. So when I wanted to come back, I knew that I needed to add something different. And that's where I started looking at TikTok. I started looking at Instagram because I knew nothing about Instagram. Instagram scared the hell out of me. It kind of still does. But
I get it. Yeah.
It's funny. So I didn't know who you were on Facebook. I had no idea. And TikTok, I couldn't message you because XYZ, whatever their weird rule was. But Instagram, I saw you on there. I knew you were on there. And I sent you a message and boom, you saw it. And we were communicating probably within, I think you replied to me relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And that started, kind of a cascading effect. And I wanted to have you on a while ago. Unfortunately, life intervened. I started looking at all of these other things that I could go with, and it seemed the same all over. It was video. People want to see, not only hear. People are still scared of podcasts. There's a bazillion podcasts out there. I mean, a cool pickup line used to be, hey, I got a podcast. Not anymore. Doesn't work that way unless you're doing something really, really, really interesting. I don't care about that. I know what I want my niche to be. I know my loves are horror and pop culture kind of encompasses everything. But the video thing, that's where I really started to realize that I needed to change things up a little bit and just do something different. So that's when I came back. That's what I decided to do. I said, I'm adding the YouTube channel. And it was the best decision I could have made because apparently people like that. I mean, we have unique listeners on all of the listening platforms, but YouTube, my stats were, they jumped a lot quicker than anything else. So
Right.
it was kind of neat. How often are you creating? So are you creating daily, or do you create and then kind of stack things up and put them out there?
So in the beginning, all I had was TikTok, and there is a massive market in the industry for gurus and advisors and coaches to explain to you what you're doing wrong on social media platform XYZ.
Sure.
And they tell you when to post and how much to post and how frequently to post and what times to post and what you should say in your posts and what you should put in your. They dictate everything for you down to the words that you say, and that culture caused a lot of people of varying follower size to either panic or become obsessed with how much content they were putting out and the manner that they were doing it. And at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy making content, it will either show, or you will burn out, or you won't make good content.
Right.
Or all three, you know?
Sure.
And I was enjoying it. But I was also stressed out every day because I was told that I had to make 3 pieces of content a day, every day, to increase the likelihood that I went viral, to increase the viewership of my niche. I mean, all these buzzwords, you know, viral, niche, timing it. And that's what I was doing. I was busting out 3 pieces of content a day, every single day. And, you know, it's about 33% of it was good.
Right.
And the 2 out of every 3 videos was just not,
Right.
you know? And if I did have a day where I would bust out 3 videos that was good, they didn't all perform well because I was putting them on times that I shouldn't put them on, or I was posting too close together. So I really wish I hadn't done what I did. I can't say that because now I am where I am, and that was part of that process.
Sure.
So who knows if that was helpful or not. But at the same time, I really wish that I hadn't done that because I felt like I blew through so much content so fast. I had 400 videos before the year was over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I have like 700 and I'm over 2 years into the game, which obviously I slowed down. But I wish I hadn't done that because I feel like I feel like ultimately, however long you decide to do social media in any medium, you do kind of have a long rope that eventually you will reach the end of. And I feel like I kind of cut a few inches off that I didn't need to. But all that aside, to answer your question, I changed my philosophy to only creating 1 video a day. That was my goal. It's still kind of my goal now. Now I'm on Instagram. Tonight, I am reformatting all of my videos and I'm starting YouTube tonight into tomorrow. I'm going to start Facebook. And it's not hard because I'm just repurposing the content so that people on those platforms can see what I put my hard work into. But it takes time. It takes time to, you know, to post all those videos, all those different platforms. I am running out of time in a day. I have I create content for a company, for one of my jobs. I have this self-employment thing where I'm making content and, you know, trying to do that. I'm trying to get my podcast rebooted. So to have a answer to your question turn into advice for a listener, if you are trying to get into the game, whatever you consider to be the game, if it's podcasting, whatever it is, don't think that you just need to saturate yourself. That because the mentality is, if I put enough out there fast enough, I'll take up enough elbow space that people have to see me.
Right.
And it's not true. It's not true. The internet is a infinitely large place. You are not putting a dent in the amount of view time that people are getting. So you don't have to do that. You just have to enjoy what you do. And if you think of 10 good ideas, don't post 10 in a day. Post 1 a day for 10 days.
Right.
You know, be consistent with good content. And I know that's what everybody hears, but it's because the rest of us did that already. The rest of us already went out there and went ape shit trying to make as much content as possible. And now we're like, man, I really wish I just chilled out for a bit.
Sure. And
like-
I when I was out, I had knee surgery, and I was out of work for 3 months, because I thought I was 20 and I could recover in 3 weeks, and instead, I had a major meniscal tear, and boom, it knocked me out of service for 3 months. It drove me up a wall. But during this time, I said, wait a second, I can sit down, reformulate what I want to do. I'm going to take some content creation courses. And I lined up like 2 or 3. I did one with a big YouTube star. And now I can't even remember his name. But it was, those were paid classes. 2 were paid, 1 was free. I got the same real information out of all 3, the basic information, but the techniques were different in each one. And that's when I realized, wait a second, you're trying to do the $49.99 money grab. You're trying to do the $200, $220 money grab. And you're just a guy doing something for free because you want to kind of, do your own thing. And everybody was different. And they all talked about Instagram, YouTube, even Snapchat, which is a weird, if I saw your stuff on Snapchat, that would just be weird to me,
Yeah.
But everywhere. And everybody had slightly different takes on how much content to post. I mean, the one guy was breaking down Instagram photos and videos on like exactly how big they're supposed to be, how long they should be, angles and all this other stuff. And I was like, this is a lot of information. And there's a lot of good information there, but you're going to find, and I'm sure you found, what may work for you. I may get a completely different answer when I interview anybody else on the screen behind me. So it ultimately is going to be, I'm sure that there is, what's the word I'm looking for? A generic set of absolutes that's with everybody, what you have to do. But there's going to be different things that work for everybody in the end. And that's why I love, I love exactly what you said. If you're a creator that's out there and you're trying to do this, here's my advice. And that's kind of what this is all about. Because again, we have a lot of people out there that want to do something and have so much to offer people. And, they're either too scared to do it. They feel that they don't have enough time. I work 60 hours a week, if not more. I'm in telecom. And, when the pandemic hit, we did not slow down. We got busier because everybody needed interwebs for things like you. So everything kind of blew up, and we just didn't we were considered, I guess, essential employees in communications world. We were first responders for that. And we had to keep the world up and running on old copper lines, which is not always fun. But the looking out there and doing this stuff is, there's people that want to do this stuff. And I'm here to say none of it's easy. It literally is. And I get paid for 0 at this point. And at some point I will have merchandise like Brave Dave does, and most of the other creators out there do. But I don't get paid to do this. I do this because I love it. I love to share pop culture, horror, music with everybody out there and my takes on it. And you love to make people smile, Dave. You're basically almost every parent that I know that I've ever said, go watch this guy. They all come back and say the same thing. Oh my God, this is real. Well, of course it is. He's not like a cartoon. He's a cartoon behind me, but he's not a cartoon in real life. It's obviously real. He really has children. He doesn't just talk to like marionettes. So, it's, but in that, even in the tougher topics that you cover, and we'll slide into that and we'll get away from parenthood for a second. Mental health is a real thing. We see it every day in the news. There is, especially with the 2 shootings that just happened. There's a lot of heavy stuff going on in this world. And, mental health is always at the forefront. Now, people have had mental health issues for eons. I mean, it's never not been a thing.
Right.
How we deal with it has always been an issue in this country, and quite frankly, in some other areas of the world, but mostly in this country. And I'm not going to get political about anything because I just don't, that's not my thing. Well, I mean, it is my thing when I'm not on my podcast, but as a lot of my friends will tell you. But watching your stuff on, struggles with especially ADD, and I'm off to start a new hobby, that kind of thing. It doesn't make light of something. It may take somebody that didn't realize what was going on with maybe one of their friends or their family members, and they're like, oh my God, he just made me understand exactly what I'm seeing. There's another guy out there, and I can't remember his name, but it just popped into my head, and he's a curly headed guy, and like he does this.
Oh yeah,
you've seen him, and he does these songs,
the really aggressive limericks.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just so good. And it's, whether it's about LGBTQ issues or mental health issues or just political issues, this guy nails it. And that's what you do. You sat there and you took something so simple, like, I'm off to start a new hobby, that kind of thing. And people are going to understand a lot more because of that. So bravo.
Thank you.
It seems like you've started to trend. I don't want to say it's differently, because I mean you are doing pretty much the same thing, but it seems like you're adding more stuff. Like the music I didn't see for the longest time, and all of a sudden now that's there. Now, do you have a music background? Do you play an instrument? Are you in a band? Where did that all come from?
So I played trombone from 6th grade until college.
Okay.
I got a scholarship to go to college for music performance. My major was in music performance and music education. I ultimately left because by the time I hit my senior year in high school, 7 out of my 8 high school classes were all music. So it felt really good to me. It felt like this is like a preparation for college, because I'm just doing what I want my trade to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on cloud 9 every day. Every day I woke up and I was on time for school, because I was doing what I loved for 7/8 of my day. And then I got out of college. They said, you're a great musician. Here's money to go to college, because we love how good of a musician you are. Go to college, live your dream. And I got into college, and they said, all right, here's a couple music classes. And then here's all this other shit that you have to do. That's not music. And I'm like, what? Who's paying who? Why do I have to take English 101 so that way I can read music better? That doesn't make sense to me. And I just stopped going to those classes.
Sure.
I just kept going to the music classes. And then I think I had something stupid, like an 8 in my remedial math class. Cause I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to play music and be done. So I don't understand why I have to. So I just left. And that, there were some issues with substance abuse that ultimately became a part of my past. I ended up going to AA, and 2 years sober now. But part of that I sold my insurance and stuff, and it just kind of faded away.
Sure.
I did karaoke and stuff because I love to sing, and I involved myself in music, but it was never like it was before. And then after I got sober and I started getting on social media, I don't know what it was, something on Amazon, maybe maybe their satellites heard me talk about trombone or something, because one just popped up, some Chinese knockoff trombone for like $150. I said, screw it, I'm an adult, and I bought it. And I knew it wasn't going to be a good trombone, but it was, right. It vibrated, it did its job. And I played for the first time in like 8 years, and I was like, that felt good. I was like, I'm just going to incorporate it somehow. The problem with social media influencers and music is that there are musicians that get on social media, and then there are influencers that think that they are musicians.
Sure.
and they get a lot of flack for that. You know, like, oh, it's another social media creator that thinks he has a musical strain that he's going to go for. I'm like, and so I just kind of avoided it. I dabbled a couple times, and it wasn't terribly well received. People liked it, but I could tell that most people were just kind of like, yeah, okay, you know, good for him. That's nice. And I just didn't mess with it anymore. I don't like parody music comedy.
Okay.
I like Weird Al, and that's it, because I think Weird Al he doesn't deserve to be classified there. He is his own genre.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he's the OG. No matter what, he's the OG.
It's the OG, exactly. But stuff like the Lonely Island stuff, like all of that, I'm just like not into.
Mm-hmm.
Until I started making it, and I realized I enjoy making it. I enjoy doing parodies of songs to relate to things that I have knowledge about. But sure. I don't enjoy it as an art form to be consumed, which is hypocritical, but I find to be funny. And it was a nice way for me to say, you know what, I love to sing. I love to be involved with music. You guys don't particularly like it when I do it like in earnest. But what if we meet in the middle here and I say, I'll be funny and talk about the stuff you want me to talk about, and I still get to do something that I love. And they were like, oh yeah, we're cool with that. We like that. That's funny. And I'm like, okay, great. Okay, everyone's happy with this result then. So it's nice.
It's sort of like you became the latest incarnation of Arbys. So Arbys roast beef sandwiches forever. No hamburgers. You don't go to Arbys to get a hamburger. Now all of a sudden I see these commercials, and Arby has, I guess, and I'm gonna say this word wrong, wagyu kind of beef, and I love
good.
Food. I love
it's
beef.
Good too.
But I'm not like, that's something that Arby's just threw out there. I'm not going to Arby's and going, I want a burger. But now they've got me thinking about burgers. So I'm going to probably go into an Arby's, and we don't have many in New Jersey anymore. But I'm probably going to go in there and be like, you know what? I can have a roast beef here anytime. Let me try this, because this might not last. It may last. And then I'm going to have a different experience there. And I'm probably going to love it, because at the end of the day, it's a fucking hamburger. So I'm going to love it. It's beef on a bun. It doesn't matter what shape it's in. This just happens to be ground and fried instead of just, sliced and put in au jus. But it's sort of like what you just said, is that, people, and I don't know how people go into their For You feed. I know some people just go into a particular creator and they might just scan through the videos. Another gentleman that's out there, and I do quite frequently go to his page. It's Jonathan something, and he does these parodies where he just stands there like he's singing karaoke, and he's talking about his seasonal affective disorder, or eating too much and not being on a diet and things like that. And they're parodies, but that's what people go to him for. So I'm sure people go onto your from their For You, or just go directly to you, and they might be surprised to see you doing something different. But you're right. If the people are cool with it, if they know who you are and they know your brand, they're going to stick with you, because it's probably going to be good. And you're going to know that, and you know that pretty much right away, because you can see, in your insights, how people are going about, doing that. And I personally love it. And it was just another thing to add to your, repertoire. I mean, I sit there and I'm like planning out your life going forward. Like, where's the book deal? Is there going to be like a sitcom behind this at some point? There are so many different things. I definitely feel a book in your future, by the way. I'm putting it out into the universe.
I'm writing a children's book.
There you go. But even an adult parenting book, like this slice of life thing, this slice of parenting life is it's a huge thing. And there are a lot of parents out there that rip their hair out, and and they just it's just like it was just like the it was the campaign that came out, It Gets Better, for LGBTQ youth. And I sort of want to say that to parents. It does get better. I mean, your kids are going to hate you for probably 35 to 40% of their childhood. I mean, they don't know, it's not real hate, but they kind of don't like you for a long time, off and on. And then when they get older, even without the money, I love my daughters to death. And they suffered through a pretty rough breakup, and they've all done pretty well. My oldest has some struggles with things that she's quite open about, and I've always called my kids, and I told you this, small, medium, and large. Unfortunately, my oldest, she gets that moniker large, and it's a real tough moniker for a girl to be called large. She's not. I mean, she literally is probably the stick figuriest of them all, but she's small, medium, and large, because when you try to say Julia, Taylor, and Emily, and they're all in the same room, and you're trying to corral them, like I said to you earlier this morning, it's like your mind just all of a sudden you're creating. I think I said we were Benifer before Benifer was cool, because that's just kind of the way that it went. And you're just combining names. And I know my girlfriend and her sister, her mother, even today, it's Rachel, it's Rena, it's whatever combination of words it is, it is. But there's hope for parents, and I love that you're kind of, in your own way, you're kind of just, while you're not making light, you're making light when it comes to the parenting type stuff. And again, with ADD, ADHD, and mental health, it's not that you're not necessarily making light of something, but you're making people understand that these things are real, that they happen, but you also have to kind of try, and it's very, very hard in the world we live in today, try to make the best out of a darker situation. And I'm sure there's days that you wake up that you're like, you know what, fuck it, I don't feel like being happy today. I know, right. I feel the same way. Now that you've created a brand, so you've basically created this business, how do you combat that? So you wake up, wrong side of the bed, Dave's angry, he's pissed off at the world, life sucks, whatever. How do you combat that and go create what you create? Or do you take a day off, or 2 days off, or 5 days off?
You said earlier that everybody thinks that this is easy, which isn't true. And that what you said is true.
Right.
The concept is easy. The concept is, what do you do for a living? I make videos on my phone. Mm-hmm. That's easy. What's not easy is you have to make videos on your phone every day. And if you miss the deadline for that day, or if you have a podcast that's supposed to come out that week, mm-hmm. that's technically failing what you were supposed to do. If you want to make good, you can upload content to one place one time, but if you want to make good money, you have to upload content to 4 places at a time. If you want people to feel like you're personable and likable, you can go live once a month, but to reach your full core audience, you have to go live 3 times a week. And it's the actions are easy, but it takes up a lot of time, and everyone else has their bad days, and it just is.
Right.
They don't broadcast to anybody. You know what I mean? And a lot of people have a bad day, and they turn to you and listen to your podcast.
Right.
So, it doesn't work the other way around. And I just, this is what my podcast episode yesterday was about right. How the mental health of creators is not taken seriously, because we ingest the content in such large quantities in such short moments.
Right.
60 seconds of 1,000 people a day. And you don't consider their whole big picture. So there are days when I wake up and I'm like, there are days when I wake up and I say, I don't want to make content, or I don't know why I'm making content, or how long am I going to keep it? Am I wasting my time? Could these hours that I've spent making content about my kids, maybe that would have been better spent with the kids I was making content about. You know what I mean? Right. There's all these kinds of intrusive thoughts, and that comes from parenting. Mm-hmm. That comes from that. So first of all, yes, you should take days. It doesn't have to be this way, but once a year, not lots, but a handful of us do this. We will pick out 6 creators that match our moniker, and they will make a video for the day. and then all 6 of them will send me their video, and then I schedule the video to have 6 days in a row of like an account takeover.
Okay.
And I take a vacation from social media, and my account keeps running because their videos are on there. So it's nice because we're all supportive of each other. But there will absolutely be times when you don't want to do this. And that's the reason why I make it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because people say, well, ADHD is not a joke. You shouldn't joke about it. I'm like, who said it was a joke? I never said that. I mean, if you said that when I didn't say it, that's because you think I'm funny, and that's not my fault,
Right.
But if someone has to wake up and face the reality of what their life is like every single day, it's not of benefit to them if they wake up and they feel that way until noon, and then somebody hops on a video and says, by the way, these things suck about you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. And then they're like, I already knew that. I didn't need to have negative feelings about something that I already had negative feelings about. So if we're all going to have these feelings anyway, if we're all going at some point as parents feel like maybe we're not adequately parenting, or maybe we didn't raise our kids right, or our kids are fighting and we feel like we don't have control over that situation, if we feel like our ADHD is causing us to not remember anything that we're supposed to remember and make us feel dumb,
Right.
can we at least talk about it? Can we
Sure.
at least just normalize the concept and say, hey, look, this is exactly how I feel, and someone says, oh shit, that's how I feel too.
Yep.
There is nothing wrong with just camaraderie and likeness of things. And I understand why some people have a problem with the way people make light of some things. It doesn't happen as often in parenting as it does the mental health space, because people have a lot of feelings, which they should. But nobody out there is making humorous suicide content. That's not a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're talking about the ways that our brains work in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that I have a diagnosis is because I posted videos about weird shit that I did that I just accepted that I did. And then people on social media were like, that kind of sounds like anxiety and ADHD. And I was like, hold your horses. That's not what that is. They said, no, really, go watch these guys and see if you relate to what they say. And I was like, I do. And then simultaneously, I was having a very hard time in the home. Just men have a hard enough time as husbands and fathers with the moniker that they are dummies, and we don't, oh, it was supposed to be 2 cups of formula and I put in 7 and now it's a thick paste, like we're idiots.
Right.
That's a common thing that is just associated with husbands and fathers. TV doesn't help, movies don't help. That's how we're portrayed. So when you have ADHD and you do forget things and you do misplace things and you do have a hard time with organization, it's just this like internal fortification of what you already struggle with anyway. Where you say, I don't want to be the stupid dad, and I for some reason feel that way stronger than I ever have before. And to know finally, after going and getting a diagnosis, there's a reason that these things occur in my brain. That was because some guy made some stupid video that I went and watched, and that led me to a diagnosis. Since I've made those videos, ballpark probably 20 people have told me that they went and received a diagnosis for something, because if they said there's enough similarities here to prompt me to go get the information.
Sure.
I could get canceled today and I am totally fine. You know what I mean? I felt like I did something.
And I think that's the most important thing, is that if somebody can look at one of your videos, and I've had certain episodes of the show here where I know we were talking about maybe a tough subject, and if it reaches one person and causes that person to say, hey, wait a second, Dave is just like me, Rob is just like me, they're out there doing this, there's hope, there's something that can be gained from whatever we put out there. I've seen there's a girl with Tourette's. She's like 16 years old, and the amount of shit that she has dealt with from scumbags, excuse my French, on TikTok, and the comments that were made. And I mean, there were people actually like arrested for some of the things that they were saying to this poor girl, but she kept going out there and doing this. And I think she was like maybe 16 or 17 years old. She's in my,
I think I know who
I
you're talking
follow
about.
her. You know who I'm talking about.
She has like long dark hair. She
Yes.
yeah, there was a lot that happened to her.
Right. And I mean, it was absolutely horrific. Then there was another gentleman whose wife has, I want to say she has MS, or maybe she has cerebral palsy. She might have cerebral palsy. That's what I think it is. And the amount of hatred that they took, and because people sit behind this keyboard and they feel like they can say anything and just get away with it. But these people still go out there and they do the thing. I'm sure that you've gotten comments where you're like, oh, whatever, dude, or whatever, miss, where people say something like you just said, well, maybe you're making light of ADHD. You're not. You're trying to find a way to communicate what's going on in life with people that may need to see something like that. And again, goes back to creating happiness. That's what you're doing. You're creating this happiness envelope, this happiness bubble that you need. It's self-healing, it's self-medicating. We always say, take a mental health break or take time for yourself. You're doing that in some of the ways with this stuff. And I'm sure there's videos that you make that you're like, you know what, I'm just going to keep that for myself and I'm not going to do anything with that. I have a friend, Therese. She's the main choreographer at the theater that I work with most often. And I made the joke that when her two kids ever want to see anything or need to know exactly what happened on XYZ date, they can just go to Instagram or Facebook and they'll be able to pull up that date and there's a picture of them somewhere. And it's because she is constantly behind the camera, but in a good way. She's documenting life. And it's one of my favorite things in Rent is that, Mark talks about that, documenting life. And I think that's so important. And there's a lot of people that, oh, you spend your whole life behind the camera. Not if you do it right. Like if I go to a show, I'm a huge Dashboard Confessional fan, and I'll go to a show knowing that I'm allowed to record, and I don't do this. I kind of just do this and I'm singing along with the music and the camera's kind of shaking, but I've documented that moment now, and I'll flip around the camera and I'll show Gina and I, or if I'm with somebody else, I'll show us. We were at the Paul McCartney concert singing along, and those are moments that I want to keep forever. So it's one of those things where, it capturing everything and keeping a record of it. And you'll be able to go back when you're 78, when you're 80, you'll be able to go back and, first of all, we're going to be living in a world where there are going to be 90-year-olds named Brittany. And we're going to be hearing, Leonard Skinner and Ozzy Osbourne and Metallica. And then eventually we're going to be hearing Pitbull in nursing homes. I don't know how to process that. Like, I hope that my plane has left the planet when, my rocket ship is gone when that happens, because I don't know how to deal with that. I can't call a 90-year-old Brittany. I just can't do it. I just cannot do it.
Right.
But yeah, you're going to be able to go back, and your kids, even more importantly, are going to be able to go back, and there is a record of a story. There's something there that they can pull from. And that's why and that's going to bring them happiness, and that's going to bring them joy. There's going to be probably a time in their teenage years where they're like, Dad, I can't believe you said that about us. But eventually it's going to mean something to them. And it's because now you've created a living record for everybody to share in. And that's something that, you just don't get. And it's amazing what you've done. So I thank you for bringing smiles into my life. And I try to tell any creator that's out there, especially on TikTok, because that's usually my Sunday rabbit hole. And it's hilarious because you go into these lives and I see you. I saw you the other day. In fact, I actually contributed the extra $1 to your $1 million. What is that called again?
The $1 million experiment. Yeah.
which is trying to find 1 million people to give you $1, and therefore you become a millionaire. But the one lady was like, oh, I don't have any money. And I was just like, it's $1. I don't care. I have the $2. I'm going to do it. So I Venmo'd you. I think I Venmo'd you the $2.
Thank you.
I just lost my train of thought. But you go onto these lives and you see people, they're combing their hair. And because their breasts are sort of showing, they have like a bazillion viewers. And I'm like, this is just, it's crap. You're doing something that is meaningful. And I'm sorry, other TikTok people, I'm not shitting on you much, but
yeah, if it's your hustle, that's your hustle. You know what
I mean? Exactly. I mean, there's a girl that sells farts in a jar. I mean,
I forgot about
her. where have we gone as a society? I just don't get it. And we wonder why we can't have nice things. Why? Because we sell farts in a jar. So that's my wisdom for the day. We can't have nice things because we sell farts in a jar. But yeah, I mean, you go through all this stuff and some of it is just utter nonsense. And I try to not interact or stay on that, because I flow through lives sometimes. I love when people are like in their backhoes and they're, doing construction, or the truckers. I mean, I don't like a lot of what they say because they're not on the same side of the aisle as me. But I like seeing that slice of life, that Americana, seeing different views and different viewpoints that I may not have necessarily seen. But I see people like you, and I loved watching your live the other day. I thought it was great. But yeah, it's what you do is it's phenomenal. It just is. And I am so happy that you came into my life that way. So again, thank you for everything that you do. We're going to have,
thanks for having me here.
We're going to have links to your merchandise. We're going to have links to all of your socials, so people that don't know who you are. And again, it's not just about parenting, it's about just life in general. There's a lot of parenting stuff there, and if you don't have kids, or you have had kids in the past, take a trip down memory lane. Remember what your kids were like. There was a wonderful stand-up comedian the other day, and it was a woman. I can't remember her name. But she was saying how, these little girls, and they're like, oh, I'm a princess, and how boys are so much easier because and she's sitting there going, I'm a princess. And she's like, no, you're a little asshole. And yes, I mean, I think at any given time, any daughter of ours, and again, I have 3, I can say this proudly, they can be assholes. I'm sure boys can be too. But little girls, I'm a princess. No, not today. You're not. Maybe tomorrow you will be. But that all changes too. But we're gonna have links to all of your stuff. If there's anything that you wanna bring up, now is the time to bring it up. That you in the future, what your plans are, anything. Fire away.
Well, I'll just tell anybody that if you have a project that you're wanting to do and you feel like you don't want to do it because your core audience isn't there, and you've watched the videos from the experts who have told you you need to search out your keywords and see if your keywords are being searched for before do you know how many people access the internet every day? If whatever you are wanting to do has 0% interest in the billions of people that access these platforms every day, you've got to be the most unrelatable person that has ever walked the face of the planet. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I can't tell you how many videos I've seen where I had the idea and someone else made it. And it doesn't matter if someone else has done it. It doesn't matter if you think that if you do it, it won't do well. The fact that you could say you tried to do something, even if you thought it was silly. I thought what I was doing was silly. And now it's not even like a success story for me. It's not, well, if you try hard, you can become like I did. It's not even that. It's the fact that I feel like there's very few instances where you feel like you have purpose for something, where you can look back and say, the reason that I used my life force to perform this task was for this very specific reason, and I feel good about that. That's not something that manifests itself very often. So if you feel like there's something that you could do, then just go do it. Go do it. And if it doesn't work, then you are where you are now. That's what I would advise anybody that just has something that they want to do.
That was so Nike. Just do it. There you go. Swoosh. You did a swoosh. I wanted to take this month for you guys out there to understand that, you know, especially, and you guys have been along with my struggles. You guys know what happened to Donnie and I, and, you know, it was really, really tough on me. It kind of broke my spirit. And I mean, there's so many days that I wake up that I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a podcast person. I don't want to do it. And then I realized that I love it. I love what I do. I love reaching out to different people from all walks of life. I shoot my shot. I hope something comes of it. I mean, Dave, you have countless viewers. I mean, you have a ton of viewers that are followers, and a ton of views of your stuff, people that have interacted with you in some way, whether it's a like or a comment or whatever. And I sat there and I was like, this guy's not even going to want to talk to me. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to shoot my shot. If he wants to talk to me, because he seems a lot like me, maybe he will. Maybe he'll tell me to go pound sand. Who knows? I shot my shot. Just do it. Go out, do it. And you know what? There's going to be some people that love it. There's going to be some people that hate it. This is life. I mean, every day, you know, you perform on stage, my theater friends, or you perform behind a camera, behind a keyboard, and you write something or you create something. And it hurts a lot when people say, I don't like that, or they just poo-poo it. That does hurt. No lie. But we are all in the business. Everybody you see behind me, Dave right here, we're in the business of creating something for you that, you know what, maybe makes you forget about life for a while. It just takes you away, because there's a lot of bullshit in this world, guys and girls. There is a lot of bullshit. I choose not to let that poison get into me. And I think, Dave, you probably feel the same way. You know, it's not, we don't ignore anything. We try to take something and create something better with it, because that's really all we can do. Because I feel myself, if I didn't do that, I'd probably be 6 feet under the ground right now. Those are facts. There have been dark periods in my life. I try to find just that little tiny bit of light and try to spread that onto other people. Grace and Jim, who you see here at Rise and Right, they're coming on because Grace's brother was one of my best friends growing up, and sadly he lost a battle to cancer when he was 40 years old. She started a blog, which led to the Rise and Right, you know, podcast and vodcast and her page. But she took something, and I love that she spelled happiness HAPPYNESS. Her brother Rob was one of the most gregarious personalities in the world. I miss him dearly, but you know, we often mimic him, we copy his mannerisms and his quotes and all this other stuff, and this is how we go about life. And they're both screenwriters. They actually just created a movie that is coming out June 29th, and we'll be talking to them about that as well. So everybody out there in wherever you're consuming this content, whether it's on your favorite podcast channel or you're watching my lovely face and Dave's lovely face on the other end of the screen there, thank you so much for tuning in. Dave, like I said, your stuff will be mentioned in the links below. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night.
This is our prime time. I'll be up for another 4 hours.
This is true. This is true. And there's a little part of the ADD component in there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't go to bed till midnight. I wake up at 5:30, and I mean, it is what it is. But thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Guys, his name is Brave Dave. He's on TikTok. He is on Instagram.
Instagram is Brave Dave Official.
So all the links to all his socials will be below. Reach out, follow him, give him love. He is phenomenal. Go watch all of his stuff. When you fall down that TikTok rabbit hole next time, make sure that you fall down the Brave Dave hole. even if it's just for one day. Look what's out there, see the content, support our creators, support local arts. Do not forget that. Don't
I
just
have a podcast. My publicist would kill me, which is I'm my publicist. If I didn't tell you that I had a podcast. Okay, I'm done.
and he is doing the $1 million experiment. So $1, it's $1. Everybody can spare it. I want to see him make it. Like at this point, I don't care if I have to do like $1 every other day. I just want to see if he can actually make it. And I actually thought about doing something like that years ago. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me start a GoFundMe and just ask everybody that's on my friends list for $1, just $1. And like nobody did it, and it really pissed me off. Right. I'm like, hey, come on, man. It's $1. It's $1. I mean, you have more than that in your car seats. You know, it is what it is. Your kid will swallow more than $1 in their life. Between the ages of 2 and 10, they will swallow more than $1. I promise you. But again, Dave, thank you so much for being here. To my loyal audience and my friends, I will see you very, very soon. And I am out. Good night, everybody.
Bye, y'all.